Oh boy, brace yourselves for this one. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. So Wild West Guitars over in Pasadena, California came out with a insane Les Paul custom. And when I say insane, I really mean it this time because they played with everything that they possibly could, as well as got Gibson to do something that they have not been willing to do since the late 2000s. So first things first, this is a straight up Les Paul custom. It means you've got the ebony fretboard with your mother of pearl block inlays, and your headstock is pretty normal with your golden tuners. Typically, a Les Paul custom will have one of two different woods used, a maple top or just be part of the mahogany body all carved up. But this one is different, it's koa. There's been a good amount of koa customs made over the years. It's not necessarily anything too groundbreaking. Even Epiphone has had a run of them in case you need something a little bit easier on the pocketbook. But the thing about these is they all look so different. Some tops are just like a darker maple. Other ones get incredibly insane, like this Access custom with a 5-piece maple neck. Some people have even done koa top 54 reissues just for fun. But anyways, my point is, usually koa is reserved for acoustic style guitars, but there have been some Les Pauls done up with it. So that was rather interesting to see on this one, but look, we've got Randy Rhoads style golden speed knobs, a regular Nashville bridge, which tells me this is not a specific year reissue. But all that's not good enough for a feature on my show yet. They got Gibson to reintroduce the long scale. This is a 25.5-inch scale length, which means it's a Fender scale. The last time I can remember Gibson offering this as an option was back in 2014 with the Custom Shop Les Paul long scale. Now this one had a few quirky specs of its own. To identify it very easily, they gave it the EDS 1275 or Dove acoustic model among many others like an ES 345 split parallelogram inlays. And they offered them in a few different finishes, but what made them extra unique is the fact that they're a Les Paul standard, but they're double bound, so there's binding on the backside of them as well, like a custom, but only single ply, which is not a spec that you find too often on a standard. It's one of those models where eventually I'll find the right deal and the right top and right color, and we'll document it. So is that it? Fender scale length on a Gibson Les Paul custom with a koa top? That is pretty insane. I probably would feature it, but no. None of that even matters at all. Look at the back of this thing. It's pink. Why? Why would you choose brown top, pink back and sides? My best guess is they were trying to design a Les Paul custom based on their original case, made by Lifton in the 50s. So you've got this brown exterior, they're still making reissues of these things yet today. But when you open it up, after a little bit of age has set in, the pink starts to fade and it gets a bit whiter. I would imagine that's what they were thinking in their head when they custom ordered this. But I'll try to be nice. I don't think it works at all. And it pains me to say it because did you see the body? It's flamed maple. Now on things like the Dragon Les Paul, we've seen them do the back veneer, but we've never seen them do the Les Paul again, where they take the laminate sides around the edge and press it like an ES 335. But if you come to this shot again, you can tell you've got figuring on the edges again. According to the listing, this is a one-piece maple body, which is huge, especially because this is a 2024. We have not seen Gibson use one-piece maple bodies on guitars since the late 2000s. For example, the Super Custom we had documented, that was an example of a guitar that they decided to do that instead of doing the mahogany core with the laminate sides. Or you remember my 2014 Gibson Crimson Division Les Paul Custom Ultima? That was another one of those weird freak guitars that happened to get the full-on maple body. However, that was chambered out. In fact, in many ways, this reminds me of the 2008 50th anniversary Les Paul Custom, where believe it or not, it also had a koa top with a figured maple body. This was a little bit more traditionally colored, but with the added fun of a 3-piece maple neck. And 3-piece necks are more so associated with acoustics for the most part, so they decided to throw the cloud inlays on this one, done up in abalone, and you get the matching headstock for it, with super fancy boy Grover Imperial tuners. But I've tried to do custom orders with one-piece maple bodies like this, and I've been shot down. They said they weren't going to do it. They're never going to do it again. And then sure enough here, it takes Wild West to custom order it. I'm sure this was a very small one-off chance, or maybe we're going to start to see more of these. But I found it interesting that they didn't chamber this one out, because that's usually what they do with them. If you come to the spec sheets, it says about 10.5 pounds. That's not too bad. But then we get to the neck. It's a 5-piece maple neck, but I cannot imagine that they custom ordered it to be plain. I mean, you got crazy figuring on the body and the sides. I wouldn't say anything too crazy on the top, but hey, the Koa stuff makes up for it. But then to go plain maple and stain it a light pink color. It's not my favorite, but I wonder if the shop was also disappointed when they took that out of the case. I know I would be if I custom ordered this, thinking it was going to be a figured one, but maybe they didn't. But what is cool, we've got the 70s style Schaller tuners on here, just a modern day equivalent. So it's a really cool, weird, quirky guitar. I want to love it. I really do. 25.5-inch scale length, 5-piece maple neck, crazy finished, super ultra flamey body, straight up body, not just veneers or anything like that. It's got so much going on for it, but I just can't like this one, unfortunately, because of the color combination. And if you're in the same camp as me, you're not a big fan of the pink, you could leave it out in the sun for a couple of days. It might fade into a different hue, or who knows, maybe it looks better in person. But the biggest thing that baffles my mind is, if they were going after the Lifton case vibes, why does it have the yellow version case? Throw it in this one over here. I was kind of surprised by the price tag too, $10,550. I would imagine if that would have turned out a little bit better, the price tag would have been significantly higher, because the whole maple body thing is very rare. But you also have to remember, this is just a regular Les Paul custom. The base level is a little over $5,000 today. So there's about a 2 times premium just for having the maple body, the 5-piece maple neck, and the Koa top. But nonetheless, hey, Wild West, thank you for being adventurous with your custom orders. Maybe I'll have to hit up the custom shop again when I've got some more money saved to see if they have any other figured maple bodies laying around. That's our main topic tonight, but I found a few other interesting ones I thought I'd point out. So we've got an advertised 1974 Les Paul Custom in natural. You gotta remember, around 1976, natural becomes a more common finish, but in the earlier 70s, you don't find it too often. So this one caught my attention. Yeah, it's a 3-piece top, but you've got a lot of wavy wood grain over here. You've got some light flame figuring in this piece, and this one matches. If you're a fan of 70s Les Paul customs, this one's about as good as you get as far as interesting plain tops go. But you always gotta be careful that someone hasn't refinished it, because many times that's what it is. But when I flipped it over to the back, I was like, okay. I do believe this is a factory original finish. You've got some finish checking on the top, got your bone nut, so it's Kalamazoo made, because this is slightly before Nashville coming into style. Truss rod looks like it'd be functioning just fine. It's got plenty of life left. However, always make sure you adjust them to find out, as we sadly found out in this episode. But here's a look at our serial number. Sure enough, it's got that yellow grain fill in it. I have no qualms about this being the original finish. But look in here, the Gibson branded Schaller tuners. Usually it's in 1975 when they start to use that. The backside of the pickups also looks like a very early 75, so that seems error correct, nothing's been played with. And then hey, I like the seller, he's got all the photos we need. The caps look correct, you can see your pancake layer right there. All that looks untouched to me. And we even have a visible date code. So it does indeed date to 1974, but it's the 50th something week. So either the 50th, 51st, 52nd, or on rare occasion 53rd if it's a leap year. But the pot code tells you the very earliest that the guitar could have been produced. So most likely this was made in 1975. Doesn't matter? No. And it might have sat around in a shop for a while because it should have the purple interior case. The red is a little bit later 70s, but again, it's a transitional period. But he is asking $6,750, which is not too bad for one that looks that beautiful. Outside of my 20th anniversary super ultra crazy top one, I think it's one of the best ones you'll find from that particular era in that finish. But speaking of maple fretboarded guitars, here's the exact opposite, a Road Dog 77, listed for a little under $5,000. So this one has seen some stuff. So we've got the correct reflector knobs on it. It's a miracle when they survive, but the natural finish is just ambered over in a very interesting way. And it looks like somebody's swapped out the pickups and the hardware for chrome, which gives it an interesting vibe. Looking at our toggle switch, yeah, that's very crusty, and it looks like we're dealing with a crack in the top. But then you get to the fretboard and yeah, you can see the opposite of what we've been documenting recently. Super ultra ambered over, most of the lacquer is chipped off the inlays. It's got a good look to it. But man, these maple fretboarded customs, they have a certain sound to them. It's just phenomenal. I've been enjoying them. But here's a look at our super aged headstock. I wouldn't necessarily call this one stage 4 yet because it doesn't really have the other player's wear and tear I typically associate with that. But you know what? This has a maple neck, but it sure does look like mahogany with the way the aging of the finishes occurred. But here's another cool thing. If you read the serial number, it's 1977, 237th day of the year. Kalamazoo built production number 21. This is a very key transitional period of time for Gibson. Nashville opens somewhere around 1975. They get things super up and running 76, 77. But mid-77 is when they introduce this serial number style, where you can tell the difference between the factories just by looking at this digit. 499 or less, Kalamazoo. Over 500, Nashville. And now you can also tell what date it was stamped, 237th day, as well as the year of production with these two. This is also when the Made in USA stamp gets done vertically for Kalamazoo and horizontally for Nashville. You'll notice they hadn't quite made that change yet because this is Kalamazoo, but it still has a horizontal Made in USA stamp. Occasionally that will happen, especially on really rare pre-custom shop models. But I'd imagine this was before they either made the change or somebody stuck in their ways. And hey, it's got a chainsaw case. Now, if you're wondering when that case came out, I believe it's 1978, but you might be able to find some late 77s. However, the very early ones only have 2 latches, so I would imagine this one either sat around at a shop for a while and came home with a different case, or somebody has upgraded it over the years, because it's way better than that previous case we were looking at. But oh, hey, Bangkok, Thailand. Now we know why the finish looks like that. This guy finds a lot of interesting gems like that because the humidity in Thailand is just insane. It causes finishes to ultra amber over. But here's another beautiful early 70s one in Tobacco Sunburst for 64. Same seller. This one must not have been exposed to the elements as much because it looks pretty clean. It's still a 3-piece top, it just hides it pretty well, but it's got that look. You don't find many of the burst early 70s customs because people just tend to hold on to this finish the longest. They only sell if they have to, like they died, or they have some other family emergency come up. People hold on to their wacky tobacco customs. And this one's a little bit of a bearded lady. You've got flame figuring over here and a little bit over there. Not quite as much as the one in my collection that we still need to document, but you can see the early days of them bursting the back of the body and the neck, but they stopped doing that in the 80s. And hey, this one has the hang tag. But if you want to see one of these early to mid 70s Les Paul customs, you can check out this episode that we just did last week, as well as learn about factory seconds and bargains. Then jump forward a couple of years, we need to look at a budget model. Here is a first year The Paul 1978. And something about this one struck me. It's gorgeous. Typically, these are super ultra multi-pieced. I mean, occasionally you can find a 2-piecer. From this photo angle, I can't tell. Is it 1 piece? There might be a seam line there. Let's check the back. Okay, yeah, way more obvious back here, but it's a nice 2-piece body. Sometimes you can find these as much as like 5. But this one just has a certain worn look to it. The natural satin coat it left the factory with has been buffed into a gloss everywhere. It's yellowed over. It looks like you still have the original T-top pickups in here, but somebody's played swap-a-rooney on our bridge, most likely. They've replaced the knobs, which is a real unfortunate shame, but I suppose it matches the shininess of the frets and our mother-of-pearl dot inlays. These The Pauls are fantastic guitars. I love them. Cannot say enough about them, but sadly they're no longer these $600 to $1,000 guitars, mainly because the T-top pickups in them. People would buy these guitars to strip them apart and sell the pickups to guys who needed them to restore more expensive models. Nowadays, you're usually looking around the $1,500 range for one of these, but I still say they are 100% worth it. But if I remember correctly, this was introduced like mid-1978, so this is one of the early ones. I actually have seen the prototype of the Paul, and if you were the guy who messaged me, please message me again, because I've never been able to find that message chain again, because the prototype, I'm going to let you guys know so you can check them, it actually has a message inside of here that says, the first The Paul produced, and then it has the guy's name and like some signatures, and it was only discovered because the owner was taking it in to be refinished. And what really makes me sad about that story is I never got closure if they stopped the refinish process or was the prototype ruined. Will it never be found? I would love to have that guitar in my collection because the next model, the SG that came out in 1979, I have that prototype and somebody equally ruined it by putting a Kaler in it. Now, unfortunately, someone has absconded off with our chainsaw case, but hey, early 90s Gibson USA case isn't too bad either. You could sell it. This looks a little bit more beat up than excellent to me, but hey, you're buying it for the vibe. It is a little pricey, but at the same time, it's a good looking one. But alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed our fun tonight. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.